Hi everyone, welcome to the A to Z Analytics channel, where I plan to share my knowledge of data analytics and business intelligence through Microsoft Excel and Tableau. I hope you enjoy this video and learn something valuable. If you hit the subscribe button and enable notifications, you'll be notified when new videos are uploaded, which I will be doing on a weekly basis. Today I will be giving you a walkthrough of the text to columns functionality in Excel. I will cover what the text to columns function is, different options within the text to columns function such as delimited versus fixed width, and show you some examples along the way. I'll also touch on what you can do when text to columns is not giving you the results you want, some of which I'll have to go into more detail in an advanced video. What is the text to columns function? The text to columns function is used to split a single column of text into multiple columns and can be found in the data ribbon. This is a function which comes in handy, particularly when importing text files, aka .txt. Oftentimes you'll receive text or data which has been formatted for a particular purpose, but which does not suit your needs, or you could make better use of it if it was formatted differently. If we have some data selected and click the text to columns button on the data ribbon, it will take us to the convert to text to columns wizard. There are 3 steps to the wizard, but you can sometimes finish the conversion without going through all the steps. It will depend on the data you have and familiarity with the function. In the first step, you will be asked to confirm how your data is formatted. Excel may default how it interprets your data to be. There are 2 options, delimited and fixed width. Delimited data is data where each column you want to extract is separated by delimiting characters, which are commonly commas or tabs, as can be found in .csv files and some text files. Interestingly, CSV actually stands for comma separated values. The delimiting characters can be other characters such as hyphens, but as we will see in the next step, can be defined by the user. The other option, fixed width, will put a straight line or lines through your data and split it at those lines. In the data I have here, we can see that they are street addresses in the preview pane, with what would be the line of each address separated by commas. You may have the task of doing some analysis by suburb or postcode, and in this example I would like to split each of the address lines into different columns. As I know I want to split the data into columns using comma as the delimiting value, I'll select delimited and then next to proceed to step 2. In step 2 we are presented with options on what delimiters to use, how they should be treated, and a preview of how our data will appear once converted. Firstly, the delimiters are defaulted to tab, and we can see the tick mark in the adjacent box. But the data in the preview pane still looks the same. Other delimiter characters options are shown: semicolon, comma, space, and other. As already mentioned, our data is separated by commas, and we shall check that box. Now when we look at the preview pane, we can see that each part of the address has been separated out, and a black line shows how the data will appear in new columns, which looks good. Before we move on, I will describe the other options in this screen. One of the delimiter options was other. If we required, we could select that option and enter a single character to split the text upon. For example, your data may be split by colons, full stops, or other characters. And you can see what happens in the preview pane when we change that option. There is no full stops in my data, so that has not changed anything. But if I update this to be a letter, say R, you can see it splits the columns on the R value. Let's remove that option. Other options are to treat consecutive delimiters as one. When the box is ticked, it means that if the delimiting character is repeated within the text consecutively, it will only create a single column for each instance. Whereas if the box is left unticked, the text to columns wizard will create a column for each of the delimiting characters. For example, you may have data in a single column that is separated by 3 full stops or a couple of slashes, and you want Excel to recognize these as a single column break. Let's cancel this, and I'll show you one of my other examples in another sheet. If we look at this data, we can see that it is dates. Each part of the date is separated by full stops. If we were to convert this data to columns, we would only want the date parts and not the delimiting characters. And we would not want to create several columns for 3 columns of data. If I select the data and text to columns button, select Delimited and use full stop as the other delimiter, we can see the results in the preview pane and how that changes if we tick and untick the treat consecutive delimiters as one. Here I've unticked it and you can see there are multiple columns created, which would not be ideal. So I would keep it as to treat the consecutive delimiters as one and just create those 3 columns. Let's cancel that and return to my other data. Back to the original example. I don't have any full stops or duplicated delimiting characters in this data, so we can leave those options as they are. The final option in step 2 that is available when converting delimited data to columns is the text qualifier. This function allows you to exclude text from the text to columns process. The text to be excluded should be enclosed in the text qualifier, which is a single or double quotation marks. I'll come back to that later and show you how that works. Finally, hit next and we can go to the last step. In this step, we have the opportunity to define how and where the data appears after splitting. Each column can be selected in the preview pane, which defaults to the first column as highlighted in black. The header row in the preview pane shows the current data format. As shown on the right, General converts numeric values to numbers, date values to dates, and all remaining values to text. You can change how each column is formatted, or even skip importing the column altogether. When formatting as a date, you can use the drop-down box to refine your data setting to suit your region or purposes. I'm going to return to the general data format. Through the advanced option, you can refine how numbers are shown, defining the decimal and thousand separator, and whether the minus symbol appears before or after negative values. Again, these options will depend on your data you have and how you want them to appear. So I would encourage you to play around with those if you're using numbers. The last part is to give the destination as to where the columns are to be split to. The default is to split the columns in place so that first part of the original column remains as the first column. In some cases you may want to have the columns created next to the original column so that the original column remains. You can do this by manually modifying the destination cell reference directly. Alternatively, you can use the selection button and click where you want the columns to be located. In this case, I want them to appear from column D. And finally, click Finish and your columns will appear after you click OK to proceed. Looking at my data now, the address has been separated into columns, and I can rename the headers as I wish, but the state and postcode still remain in the same column. As the state is 3 characters long, I can safely split this data at a fixed width. I will show you how to do this by selecting the data, going to the text to columns, and clicking Fixed Width. Click Next, and this will give us the preview pane. As we can see in the instructions above, to create a break line, we can click at the desired position. To delete a break line, double click on the line. To move a break line, just simply click and drag. If I click Next, under the Fixed Width option, step 3 is the same as we saw in the Delimited option, and I will create the new columns to start in the current position. Again, proceed as I want to overwrite the data, and now the state is separated from the postcode. And that completes the text columns splitting of this data. For my final example, I'll explain how the text qualifier option can be used. I have the same data but with a person's name appended. If we want to split the name from the original data, we would want to split the space between the postcode and the name. Firstly, we would split the data on the commas as before. Now, as the first name and surname contains a space between them, splitting this column on spaces would create 4 columns, and you may need then to recombine them to create a whole name in an additional step if that was your desired result. This can be done by adding another column and using the ampersand or concatenation formula to combine. So if you select your data and text to columns, we select Delimited, and to split on space, you can see that it will create those 4 columns, splitting the first initial from the surname. Let's click Next. We want to create them in their original position, which is fine, so we'll click Finish and click OK to proceed. Now, to recombine these, we can use the formula equals, bracket, initial, ampersand, we'll add a space in with quotation marks, another ampersand, and the surname. Finally, close brackets, and that will combine the first initial and surname. You can either leave the formula there, or you can hard copy it by copying and pasting as values. If the names were enclosed in quotation marks, then you can exclude the name from being split at the space. This will then save on the additional work. It will all depend on your data and how it was received. If we go through the same process, I'll ensure that the text qualifier option is the correct one, and then I can split the data as I want. I'll select Delimited, Next, Space is important, and you can see it's created the 3 columns. And you can see that the text qualifier is the double quotation marks. If I select single quotation marks, it splits on that space and leaves the quotation marks in the columns. But I will split on the double quotation marks and click OK to finish. OK. And now we have the initial and surname combined. Text to columns does not work perfectly for every situation, and you may often find yourself with data which is truncated in one way or another. This is just one tool, and there are many methods of manipulating text in Excel through formulas. Which you use will depend on the data you have, and you may need to combine this approach with other formula-based approaches. Thank you all for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video and learned from it. I would be grateful if you could hit the like button to give the video a thumbs up, as it really helps spread the word. If you would like to see more of my videos, please subscribe so you can be notified of when more videos are uploaded. You'll also find more videos if you head over to my channel. I will definitely be creating a video on text manipulation through formulas, which will support this one. If you have any questions, feedback, or topics you would like covered, then please leave a comment below and I will respond. I love feedback and learning from others. All the best, Aaron.